Have you ever stopped to wonder how you can just stream a movie, grab your files from anywhere, or launch a new app with just a couple of clicks? Well, the answer is this incredible technology that's, pretty much invisible to most of us, but it powers almost everything we do online. We're talking about virtualization.
So to really get why virtualization is such a genius idea, we first have to go back and understand the problem it was created to solve. And it all boils down to this huge, massive issue of waste in the physical world of computers.
I mean, think about the device you're on right now. Your computer, your phone, whatever. At this very second, how much of its total brain power are you actually using? Maybe 10%? 20, tops. Yeah, most of the time, our super powerful machines are just sitting around, barely even breaking a sweat.
To really picture this, imagine you built a 100-story skyscraper. It's massive, state-of-the-art, but you only let one single person live on the first floor. I mean, that's exactly what was happening in data centers with these powerful physical servers. Just tons and tons of wasted space, wasted electricity, and wasted potential.
Okay, so how do you fill that empty skyscraper without having to build a bunch of new ones? Well, you figure out a way to safely and smartly divide up the space you've already got. And in the world of computing, that amazing solution is called virtualization. So the official definition is that we're using software to slice and dice one real physical computer into multiple totally separate virtual computers. But let's be real, that sounds a little abstract, right? Let's break it down in a much simpler way. And there it is. That's really the heart of the idea. You're using some really clever software to create these fake computers, or what we call virtual machines. Each one of them thinks it has its own private hardware, but in reality, they're all just sharing the resources from one single physical machine. So how does this magic trick actually happen? I mean, what's playing traffic cop, telling all the resources where to go, and making sure these virtual machines don't just crash into each other? Well, that is the job of a very, very important piece of software called the hypervisor. It really all comes down to these three key players. First, you've got the host. That's the physical server, the skyscraper itself. Then you've got the guests. Those are the virtual machines. They're the tenants. And right in the middle, you have the hypervisor. The hypervisor is basically the building manager. It's assigning floors, managing the electricity, and making sure every single tenant has exactly what they need without bothering anyone else. Now, not all hypervisors are created equal. You've got Type 1, which is kind of the lean, mean professional version. It runs directly on the server's hardware, and this is what you'll find in data centers, where performance is everything. Then there's Type 2. That's an app you can just run on your own computer on top of Windows or Mac OS. It's awesome for developers or really anyone who wants to, say, run a Linux setup on their Windows laptop. And here's a great way to make that difference stick. A Type 1 hypervisor is like a real pilot sitting in a real cockpit. They have direct, raw control over the plane's hardware. A Type 2 hypervisor? That's more like a flight simulator program running on a PC. It works great, for sure, but it always has to go through the computer's main operating system first. Okay, so we've covered the how it works, but the big question is why? Why go through all this trouble? Well, the payoff is absolutely enormous, and it has completely changed the game for computing. The benefits are just huge. You get incredible efficiency and massive cost savings because you just don't need as much physical hardware. You get way better security because every virtual machine is sealed off from the others, so if one gets a virus, it doesn't take down the whole ship. And it gives you this amazing flexibility for testing new software, for backups, and for scaling your needs up or down in an instant. This all leads to this really powerful idea called server consolidation. So instead of having, say, 10 different physical servers all chugging along at 10% capacity, you can just have one powerhouse server running 10 virtual machines using its full potential. The savings in hardware, electricity, and cooling costs are just staggering. And get this, virtualization isn't just for servers. We can apply the same logic to almost anything. We can virtualize storage, which is like taking a bunch of physical hard drives and making them look like one giant pool of storage. We can virtualize networks to create secure, separate channels. We can even virtualize desktops, letting an entire office run their computers from one central secure server. All of these benefits, efficiency, scalability, saving money, it should all start to sound pretty familiar, right? These are the exact same promises of cloud computing, and there's a very simple reason for that. And that's the big connection right there.
The entire global cloud that we all use, run by giants like Amazon, Microsoft, and Google, is fundamentally built right on top of the virtualization principles we've just been talking about. You could say they are the world's biggest landlords of virtual real estate. So, next time you go to a cloud provider and rent a server, you're not getting a physical metal box with your name on it. No way. What you're really getting is a guest machine, a virtual machine that a hypervisor has expertly carved out just for you on one of their unimaginably powerful host machines. That is what makes the cloud so fast, so flexible, and so cheap. And the applications are literally everywhere. IT companies use it to test their software on dozens of different operating systems without needing dozens of actual computers. Banks use it to create super secure, isolated bubbles for financial transactions. Hospitals use it for patient databases, and schools use it to give every single student access to a virtual computer lab. You know, at the end of the day, it all comes back to this one simple but totally revolutionary idea. Virtualization is the art of using software to unlock the absolute full potential of hardware, turning one computer into a whole fleet of them. It's the magic behind the cloud. It's the technology that made our modern on-demand world possible. It solved that huge problem of wasted power, and by doing that, it basically built the engine that runs the entire cloud. So it really makes you wonder, what other physical limits are we about to break through with just a little bit of software magic?